A single father and his 6-year-old daughter stood in a private airport terminal, watching a millionaire board his luxury jet. The girl grabbed her dad's sleeve and whispered something that made his blood run cold. He ran toward the boarding stairs, screaming for the billionaire to stop. Security tackled him to the ground. 48 hours later, investigators would call him a hero, but first, they called him crazy. Before I reveal what this little girl saw, hit that subscribe button because this story will absolutely haunt you. What happened next changed aviation safety forever. Marcus Chen was an aircraft mechanic who'd spent 15 years maintaining private jets at Westfield Aviation. After his wife died from cancer, he raised his daughter Lily alone, bringing her to work during school breaks because he couldn't afford childcare. Lily grew up around hangars, fascinated by planes, engines, and the intricate mechanical systems her father explained in simple terms. She had an unusual gift for noticing details, patterns that others missed. That Tuesday morning in September, Marcus was finishing a routine inspection on a Gulfstream G650 owned by tech billionaire Raymond Foster. Foster had built his fortune in cybersecurity and was notorious for his impatience and explosive temper. He demanded his jet be ready early, cutting short the standard safety protocols. Marcus protested, explaining he needed 3 more hours to complete the full inspection checklist. Foster threatened to have him fired, then stormed toward the aircraft with his assistant and pilot. Lily sat in the observation area, watching through the terminal windows, her small hands pressed against the glass. Something wasn't right. Marcus had discovered a hydraulic fluid leak during his inspection, a minor issue that required immediate attention before flight. He'd flagged it in the maintenance log and begun the repair, but Foster's early arrival interrupted the procedure. The millionaire dismissed Marcus's concerns, insisting his pilot could handle any minor mechanical issues mid-flight. Company management sided with their wealthy client, afraid of losing the lucrative contract. As Foster approached the jet, Lily noticed something her father hadn't seen. From her angle in the terminal, she could see the landing gear compartment, where a thin stream of fluid dripped onto the tarmac, forming a small puddle that reflected the morning sun. But there was something else, something that made her heart race. The fluid wasn't just leaking, it was spraying intermittently, which meant pressure was building somewhere it shouldn't. She tugged on Marcus's sleeve, her voice urgent and frightened. She told him about the spray pattern, describing it exactly the way he'd taught her to identify critical failures. Marcus's professional instincts kicked in immediately. That spray pattern indicated a catastrophic hydraulic line rupture waiting to happen. During takeoff, when the landing gear retracted and system pressure peaked, the compromised line could explode, causing complete hydraulic failure. Without hydraulics, the plane couldn't control its flaps, brakes, or steering. It would be unflyable. Marcus ran. He sprinted across the tarmac, screaming for Foster to stop, waving his arms frantically. Security guards intercepted him, throwing him to the ground. Foster stood at the top of the boarding stairs, laughing, calling Marcus a desperate employee trying to extort more money. The jet's engines began to whine. Marcus fought against the security guards, shouting technical details, begging them to check the landing gear hydraulics. Foster ordered his pilot to take off immediately. The guards dragged Marcus away as Lily screamed from the terminal window. The jet began taxiing toward the runway. Then Marcus did something that would cost him his job, but saved 3 lives. He grabbed a security guard's radio and transmitted an emergency code on the tower frequency, claiming there was a confirmed explosive device on Foster's aircraft. It was a lie, but it was the only way to ground the plane immediately. The control tower ordered an emergency stop. Police and bomb squads surrounded the jet. Foster emerged furious, threatening lawsuits, screaming about false alarms and wasted time. Investigators evacuated everyone and began their inspection. Marcus stood in handcuffs, knowing he'd likely face criminal charges for the false report. The bomb squad found nothing. But when the aviation safety inspector examined the hydraulic system, his face went pale. The main landing gear hydraulic line had a 6-inch stress fracture, barely held together by the outer protective sleeve. Computer modeling later showed that the line would have catastrophically failed exactly 93 seconds after takeoff, at an altitude where recovery would have been impossible. The jet would have crashed into a residential neighborhood 3 miles from the airport. Marcus wasn't charged with filing a false report. Instead, the Federal Aviation Administration launched an investigation into Westfield Aviation's safety culture and Foster's pattern of pressuring mechanics to rush inspections. The investigation revealed 12 previous incidents where wealthy clients had intimidated staff into cutting corners. New regulations were implemented requiring mandatory cooling-off periods between inspection discoveries and aircraft departure. Foster never apologized. He quietly settled with the families who lived in the neighborhood his jet would have destroyed, binding them to non-disclosure agreements. But he never flew private again. Marcus lost his job anyway. Westfield Aviation couldn't afford to keep the mechanic who'd embarrassed their biggest client, even though he'd prevented a tragedy. 3 months later, the FAA hired him as a safety inspector. Lily grew up to become an aerospace engineer, designing fail-safe hydraulic systems. Sometimes the person everyone calls crazy is the only one brave enough to see the truth. Marcus risked everything because his daughter taught him that small details matter, that patterns reveal disasters before they happen. How many tragedies could we prevent if we listened to the warnings nobody wants to hear?